right, it's morning huddle time. Good morning.
No,
I'm not saying it works.
I wish you
I'm just saying it
Godspeed.
happens.
Godspeed with all of that. I think that's really, really nice. I'm not sure what kind of success you're going to have with that today, because the world, my friend, has changed.
Right.
Latin American construction workers, they have different needs. They have completely different needs.
These awards have a huge criteria that you have to fill out, and they usually have a community service or community relations portion.
Makes them, the most productive with a high performance value, and sometimes it's 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Funny, isn't it? Yeah, not for me.
Not for me.
At 11 o'clock, I am guaranteed to be snoring. So. Good morning. It is morning huddle time. I'm Chad Prinky, along as always with my co-host and producer, Stacy Holzinger. Stacy, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you guys? Jim, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Thanks.
We are very excited to have Jim Rogers with us here this morning. Jim is an instructor for LinkedIn Learning. He only focuses on the construction industry, and has put together a catalog of LinkedIn Learning programs around, all about construction, which we're going to get into today, learn a little bit about how all that works. Can't wait to get involved in that conversation. But before we do, Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you in the world, and maybe, how'd you get to where you are, and why did you get to where you are, if you would?
Sure. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. So I was telling Stacy backstage there, it's actually, we hit 95 already yesterday. So when you hear it's hot here, it is. Now I drove 2 hours north, like last week, and we had lots of snow. So it's kind of an interesting place, but
gotta love the West, the American West.
That's right. That's right. This is where I'm from. I was born and raised here, really as a construction guy. This has been the industry that I've always been in. Went to college for something completely different and hated every minute of it, and just stayed in construction. Quite a few years back, I kind of ended up at an industry trade association, which is where I really got involved on more the training side, and kind of went from there to doing some more training and consulting. At the time, I think I had moved back from Washington. I was living in Washington, D.C., moved back to Arizona, and ASU was putting together what's called a concrete industry management program. And they asked me to concrete is where I spent most of my time in construction. They asked me to kind of get involved and help bring that program to life. And then as things went on, it was, can you stay and teach this class? And you got pretty good reviews. Can you stay and teach this class? And that was about when the economy was on a downslide and no one was paying consultants anymore. So I said, yes, I will be happy to stay and teach.
That's awesome.
But I left about 7 years ago when LinkedIn bought a company that was then known as lynda.com,
right?
Which was a big online training platform. And they contacted me and said, hey, we've already got some AutoCAD courses and a BIM course or two, and we want to grow out the whole AEC, architecture, engineer, construction side of our library. Will you come do that with us? So that, at the time, I felt like I had this page-long list of topics and things that my construction management students still didn't know when they graduated. You just don't have time. University's got requirements, and so I said, yes, I will take this list and we'll come start doing these on LinkedIn Learning, and that's what we've been doing for the last 6 or 7 years. We've got about 40 courses in the library that I do, and we've started to add some other construction instructors as well for things like estimating, architectural process, and things like that. So it's been it's kind of been an interesting ride, interesting transition, but it's really been interesting.
I've got all kinds of questions, and I want to dig into them. And per usual, Stacy, want to allow you the space that you need to look down at your keyboard and at the screen while you're typing to our live audience. So I will bring you back in here after Jim and I have spent maybe 15 or 20 minutes talking through the topic. So we'll see you in a bit.
Okay.
Jim, okay, so the first thing that I want to, this is kind of a comment that I'm interested in your experience with this same thing, but I've noticed that there's a real lack of professional development for contractors. In general, the number of contractors that I know who have actually invested in project management training courses, actually invested in estimating training, and even plan reading. The only thing that they seem to spend any money on is safety training, and I think it's because they have to. And I'm not talking trash on my wonderful clients. I think they're the exception to that rule, but I am saying what I see out in the market as a norm. Is that your experience? And obviously you're seeing a bunch of people who come to you for training, but what do you see out?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I feel like I've seen a real change that maybe started, like after the pandemic, right? We were kind of locked down, and I think we at LinkedIn Learning saw a general uptick in usage. But me on the construction management side, I really started to see a big uptick, and I feel like that's kind of held in there. It's still, I think, is limited to some of the bigger companies. So, we're seeing those larger general contractors kind of sign up as LinkedIn Learning enterprise clients. And that gives them the ability to do a couple of things, right? They're big enough that they'll have a learning and development director who can then assign out courses along with maybe some of the in-person training that they're doing. But it also allows, when they make that available to all of their employees to use anytime, I think we do see people sort of taking their own time and saying, this hasn't been assigned to me, but I want to know more about this.
Yep.
And that'll jump in whatever it is, a plan reading course or a lean course or something like that. So I feel like I'm seeing more of it now, but I do think that it's sort of at the beginning of that curve. And I don't think we've really seen it trickle down to the smaller general contractors or, really even a lot of the trade contractors.
I think, okay, so that's exactly where I was going next. Is I think the trade contracting community has got I think a bigger gap in training than maybe the larger GCs, and maybe I could argue even more of a need, because a lot of these folks didn't have even some of the a lot. And by the way, I think the world of a lot of the people that I'm referencing right now, quite sincerely, but they didn't really have much in the way of education before entering the workforce that might prepare them for. Again, I'm focusing on more the professional end or the office side of the construction business, on estimating, project management standards, scheduling, things like that, and I do think that if you went to a construction management program or an engineering program at a major university that focuses on that stuff, that you're coming out, and by and large, we could debate the merits of this, going to general contractors. I think there's personally a lot of opportunity in the trades. You name them. There are some really wonderful, rewarding careers. Not everybody should be going to a GC, damn it. They really shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think that's the gap that I see most pronounced, is that now you've got this really smart person came up through the field. They've got a lot of intelligence and hands-on experience. What they don't have is the fundamental training to support being a project manager.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
are your programs going to meet those people where they are?
Yeah, I agree, and that's tough because I also think that their opportunities have been somewhat limited, right?
Mhm.
If I've come up through the trades, I've started a company, I went out of the field, I'm going into I work for I don't know, an MEP contractor or a large concrete contractor, whatever, and I
Sure.
want to go onto the project management side. What are my opportunities for training? What are my opportunities for education? I think that's been really difficult, and I think we've seen some associations and some groups out there, at least in the U.S., kind of pick that up, right? So AGC's got like a project manager development program, but and I've by the way taught in that program for 6 or 7 years as well. But again, it's in person. The local chapters gotta put it on. It's 80 hours long, so it's a big commitment. Where you're pulling somebody out of the field and putting them into a classroom, and it happens like once a year. And all of a sudden, if you got something that came up on a project and you just couldn't be there that day for class, it's like you missed this whole block.
It's gone.
Yeah, and so I think it's been difficult, which is why I kind of have become, I guess maybe I'm biased, but a bit of a fan for of the online training. I don't think it replaces all in-person training depending on the topic, but just this on demand and at your own pace, and sort of choose your topics. People know where they need help, right? People know what they want to learn and what they need to learn. And, starting to have some of these libraries out there of courses that they could pick from, I think will be a great resource. I just don't know that it's really proliferated through, particularly the trade contractors.
Yeah, I think that's right. I have a personal affinity for virtual training as maybe a part of somebody's overall training experience.
Sure.
I've spent a lot of time building training programs over the years, and they're not in the estimating and project management side of things as much as they're in the communication, team building, issue resolution, leadership, that side of things. But um, I've personally believe that there's a lot of knowledge that can be very efficiently gained by engaging in online programs. Can you share with me some success stories? Share with the audience some success stories that would give us a sense of what you're providing, what value people got out of that experience, and maybe why.
Sure.
What made them successful.
See if this is what you're looking for or not. But the first LinkedIn learning course that I did was learning Bluebeam. So if you're not familiar with it, Bluebeam is digital drawing software for lack of a simpler description, right? It handles our large format blueprints, digitizes them, and gives us the ability to mark them up in ways that we mark things up in construction, right? And it's become pretty common in the industry, but it's a difficult program to use because it's got, I don't know, something like 150 or 175 different tools and buttons and functions. So it was a good candidate for a course. And it's not the course I wanted to do for LinkedIn at all, right? Like I had risk management, and I had lean construction, and I had planning and scheduling, and we had this big list. And all of a sudden my content manager says, okay, we're getting started. Here's your producer, and you're going to do learning Bluebeam. I'm like, I don't want to do a software course. I don't want to do learning Bluebeam. And it was like a lot of other things. It was, well, our paying enterprise clients want learning Bluebeam, so you're doing Bluebeam.
Right.
And so that was my first course. So it's my longest running course. We update that pretty much annually or when they come out with new features. But I run into people all the time at meetings or in the field or conferences, and they're like, hey, I learned Bluebeam from you, like all over the world, which is really pretty cool. We've got like a short Bluebeam course that just gets you started, and then we've got like the long 4-hour, really long Bluebeam course, and they're like, no, we watched the whole 4-hour course. Now I can, when my manager wants me to do this, and this, I know how to do it. And that kind of thing is cool. I love it when I love that reach, to have people tell me that, they learned something from me.
That's
that,
awesome.
I've never been in their part of the country or the world. And then we've kind of continued that with, now I've finally gotten to do the lean course and the risk management course and things like that.
So one of the things that you and I have probably some shared experiences, but I think, the LinkedIn learning environment is definitely a different experience than I've ever been exposed to on the trainer side of the table.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I feel like I've always had the benefit of, and frankly, I'm addicted to, is seeing the results of the training in action, really being able to point to and say like, ha, look, they were here, now they're here, and this is what's happening as a result of all that stuff. And it's a really fulfilling experience. At the risk of making you sad, do you get to have that experience on the LinkedIn learning side? Do you get to see the results of your work?
Yeah, I will say, so that is definitely one thing I miss, right? I do miss my students at ASU. I don't miss the university, but I do miss my students.
It's a much more when somebody's completely on demand and they're taking the training on their own and they're doing with it whatever they do with it. You're just hearing anecdotally, like when you go to a conference, somebody saying that really helped me, and you're like, yes, but you didn't get to watch the growth curve, right?
Yeah, over the years, the platform's evolved a little bit, and tried to add some features to recreate that interaction or get a little bit more of a two-way conversation. There's now a Q&A tab in the course where people can post questions and kind of interact with each other as well as the instructor. But it doesn't, for one, people tend not to do that because they know everybody can see it, right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden they're not just communicating where 30 people in the classroom can see.
It's on the internet forever.
It's everyone. Yeah. So, we've had some limited success in my eyes with that kind of that two-way conversation, and maybe they'll come up with some ways to improve that. But yeah, it's that is the one thing I miss is that personal interaction with the students.
But no, I'm glad to hear that the platform is innovating, that there is this, conversation that is starting to occur for, with attendees, between attendees, and that kind of environment. I guess, big picture, what are on that vein of keeping things cutting edge?
Mm-hmm.
One of the risks I think of online training courses is that you do them 10 years ago and now they're a 10-year-old course. And you mentioned that you're updating Bluebeam, your Bluebeam training every year as an example. What are some of the things that you do to keep things relevant, to stay cutting edge and to keep things relevant?
Yeah, that's I think if there's anything that we struggle at LinkedIn Learning a bit is, if you've watched the courses, they're very well produced. There's a really high production value, and there's a lot of people involved in getting it to that stage, and it takes time. So that's one of the things I think as instructors that we kind of give them as feedback is, man, we gotta crank out some of this stuff a little faster. And we've, again, during the pandemic, the recording studios that we normally go to are closed, and all that kind of thing. And so the team got really good at remote recording and putting out some faster content. And it's been really nice because, I mean, for example, I've been able to, I just went back to, like, I think the risk course, the safety course, the planning and scheduling course, and one other, I'm going to call it the lean course, and kind of target those as, hey, these are about 4 years old, 3 to 4 years old. And I've got some great new content for each one of these. And, we've been able to pretty easily just shoot in, record some updates, say, let's replace this video, and this video, and then kind of re-release it as a really updated and fresh course. And that is, that's something that I think LinkedIn Learning has committed to and has discovered is important, because, like you said, people don't want to search the library and see a course that's 10 years old.
Agreed. Yeah.
Whether it's relevant again or
Totally.
not.
There's something weird about
well, that's 10 years old. Let me see what else I can find.
Yeah.
So we've that's one of the things that's also changed recently is like we've really started to get out there and update some of those courses, which I think is great.
So I have a kind of a theory, and I want to toss by you. Jim has not heard me run this theory by him, and so I'm deeply concerned that it may not go well. But I'll give it a run anyway, because that's
right.
how I am. So one of the thoughts that I've had since you and I met is the idea that, what if so I have lots of clients that need, no question, that need project management training, need estimating training, things like that. And they're building a lot of this stuff internally, totally custom. And it's really cool stuff. It's useful. And it's kind of like the ABC company way or the XYZ company way of doing things, which is good. And I think there's a lot of relevance to that.
Mm-hmm.
What would you think about people kind of coupling the LinkedIn Learning content with their internal custom content as a part of an overall curriculum? So would it blend nicely from a fundamentals of project management and lean, and we can fill in some blanks with our internal custom stuff? Is that something that what's your reaction to that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, that's I spend most of my time with LinkedIn Learning. We'll call it 50 to 75%, depending on what's going on. But the rest of the time, I've got some other construction clients, and one of the things I do for them is create these custom courses. So I've got a couple of general contractor clients that I met because they met me on LinkedIn Learning, right? They were watching my courses and then contacted me and said, hey, can you come do like one very company specific course for us each month that we then add to that library? So just like you said, not what are submittals or what are change orders, but
Right.
but how do we do submittals and how do we do change orders? And then they're able to add those to either their own learning management system or depending on different types of accounts and things like that, they can upload those to their instance of LinkedIn Learning. If they don't already have something. So yeah, I think that works great. And then you're really able to get some of that, real company specific, how do we do things here kind of things.
I love it. All right, cool. I'm going to bring Stacy back because I know we've had a fair amount of engagement from our audience here, and
Okay.
I want to make sure that we get a chance to filter some of those questions into you.
Yeah. Let's see. Can your classes be put on in a conference room by a well-trained and experienced project manager as a facilitator?
So the LinkedIn Learning courses in particular are really, I'll call them just video based. There's not a lot of slides with audio. It's really more of a video based kind of thing. I'm not saying it hasn't been done, but it doesn't lend itself to that very well.
Gotcha. It's at your own pace too, right?
It is, and for some of the topics, especially if it's like a tools course, like a Bluebeam course or something, that at your own pace thing, I think works really well because different people are going to have different level of skills as far as software goes, and the at your own pace thing I think helps a bit as well. I've done some in-person training or even kind of helped a company facilitate their own training with something like Bluebeam or Lean Construction or something like that, where we've kind of preceded it by saying, hey, everybody take this online course, right? And then you'll all be here. We'll all be at the same level. Then we can come in and start from here and do the in-person stuff and be really efficient at it.
Big fan. That's exactly how I see this playing out. I do that. I as a professional trainer, Jim, you and I can I'm sure share our experiences with this. But I think there's a difference between knowledge building and then skill building. And I think when you're going through LinkedIn Learning, you're getting all this knowledge, and then hopefully you're gaining some skills. But really, skill building requires practice. It requires interaction. It requires testing. It requires challenge. Those different types of things. So if anybody's watching this and thinking we need to get on this LinkedIn Learning stuff and start incorporating it into the way that we train, yeah, damn right you do. Totally agree. It's a no-brainer. Why reinvent the wheel when Jim and his team have put amazing content together that already gets you up to here? And the way you describe that is exactly right. We all now know this, but don't say, "All right, we've done our training," because that's not where it ends. You've got to build on that, and I think that's such a great point.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we'd like to know right now for LinkedIn Learning, is there more individuals or more companies using your training?
Oh, good question. So one of the things about LinkedIn as a platform is they do not share data, even internally with employees and instructors. So I'm gonna preference my answer by saying I think most of what I know is sort of anecdotal and what I've gleaned from resources, but I think the enterprise client base is the biggest base on LinkedIn Learning, because there are universities that buy it for all their students, and there are companies like Procter and Gamble that buy it for their entire company, and it's their facilities people watch it and their sales people watch it. So I think that that's a pretty big base, but I also think that individual client base is pretty big too, because that started with lynda.com, who I think really grew off of those individual users, and that base has been retained. So I think there's plenty of both. The advantage of those enterprise clients is that you can kind of have whatever you want to call it, a learning and development director, a training director, an HR person, kind of oversee that learning, and they have the ability to see, well, I assign these courses out to this group of employees, and 75% of them have finished, and I need to go concentrate on these other 25 and find out why they're not taking the courses and that kind of thing. So it gives the enterprise accounts give that oversight, that management of learning kind of feature. But plenty of people that just sign up as individuals and take it themselves as well.
What kind of courses besides, I think you said estimating, Bluebeam, project management in our industry does LinkedIn Learning offer?
So I'll back up. So the LinkedIn Learning Library is, I've lost track. It's like 11,000, 12,000 courses that are English speaking courses. So the topics are everything from, sales and how to manage stress at work and how to use Microsoft Excel to then my corner of the library that's more the construction management. And we've, there are plenty of like CAD courses, Revit courses, BIM courses on the software side. On the skills side, planning and scheduling, risk management. We're starting to do more with construction safety, and I'm really trying to take more of a safety management approach with that as opposed to a regulatory approach. But then there are a couple other instructors that like I said, do estimating. We've got a couple of architects that have come on as instructors that that teach the architectural process, which I think is cool because I think it's helpful for construction people to sort of understand what it takes to get those blueprints in their hands in the first place. That's harder than most people think. What else? Those are kind of the big areas, I think. Planning and scheduling, that type of thing.
It would be cool if you guys did like a construction 101 course. I know a couple of the associations had that, and it was one of the most well-attended courses. And it's just introducing people to our industry and the basic terms and things. I don't know if you guys have that, but that would be.
We do. So yeah, one of the courses, and that's the other course that we just updated. Thank you for now you remember, you made me remember. Construction Management Foundations is the name of the course. And I would call that, I tried to take my Con 100 course that I taught at ASU and like condense it into 60 minutes. And it really is just this is what the construction industry looks like today. And we interviewed project managers and an architect and people from general contractors and a trade contractor, and that's kind of what that course is, and that gets watched a lot, along with we have a blueprint reading course that's actually been one of the more popular courses on there as well.
Nice. Yeah. And I guess we could just end it with, what does the future hold for LinkedIn Learning?
Good question. It's for me, one of the struggles has been, it's such a big platform. It's a big organization. Sometimes as instructors, we think it's going this direction and it's really going this direction. But I think one of the things that we could say is that they're going to really continue to expand the library. There's a constant effort with that. We're looking more at learning paths, and so I've really seen a trend here in the last year of, hey, instead of picking like course topics because this is what you want to do, let's think about course topics that can fit together in a learning path and start choosing things that way. So I think that learning path is part of what the future holds, along with really more of a skills-based training regime. So let's look less at processes and more at skills. Is a big emphasis right now.
It's good.
Yeah.
All right. This has been fantastic. Jim, thank you so much for
thanks for
spending
having
time with us this morning. This is, I'm scribbling like a lunatic over here. I've got like 100 different ideas that I'm personally going to be tapping into, kicking myself for not having done so sooner, but glad to get to know you. And I'm sure many members of our audience are, as we speak, having a second screen open, digging into to the LinkedIn Learning Library and figuring out how they can tap into it. So nice. Jim, it's been great having you. Thank you so much for dedicating some time to this. And I look forward to watching how you develop into the future and maintaining a relationship. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you both for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
All right, Stace, let's talk a little bit about what we have coming up here. So first things first, we have an episode coming up same time next week. That is with our friend Jackson Nichols, who is a construction attorney. He's going to be coming on to talk about the 2023 construction legal landscape, to talk about, important changes that are being battled out as we speak. Some important changes that have already passed. So, for example, I know the pay when paid laws in Virginia have changed. That's something that we'll be talking about, and some of the other battles that are coming up, which will be very interesting to see how those things play out and ultimately affect the industry as a whole. Mm-hmm. As always, email Stacy. Get added to our mailing list. You get a weekly message from us with interesting information about the previous show, easy registration for the upcoming show, and anything else that Stacy thinks is cool to include in the newsletter. And she's typically right. Stacy, what else am I forgetting?
Just one more episode left on April 25th. And then
wait, Yeah, right. Okay, so 2 episodes left. Next week and then one more after that. Yeah, okay.
Yep, just 2 left, and then we'll go live with the NAWOC conference, and then we'll take a nice summer break and come back in August.
Yeah, that sounds right. And I think, in the meantime, we are continuing to build our guest list for the next season, which will start in August slash. Well, yeah, it starts in August, but it'll be going through the fall. Please do let us know if you or somebody that would be somebody who can come on and talk about what they're doing to create positive change in the building industry. We'd love to have and feature those folks.
Yeah.
All right. I think
All right,
that does it, Stacey.
All right. See ya.
See ya. Thanks.